What's up? I'm Alex from Codementor. This is the daily Codementor number 2, and today I'm gonna be talking to you about the power of Flexbox with a bunch of examples. Next few minutes I'm just gonna show you some theory and then I'm gonna show you some real examples. So Flexbox makes it extremely easy to build columns. So you just are gonna have a container that is gonna be set to display flex, and then the content is gonna be set to have a flex property of any number, which could be an integer. And that integer represents the relative side compared to all others. So a classic example would be if you have two columns, two divs with flex 1, they're gonna be two columns of 50-50. If you're gonna have three divs with the same property flex set to 1, you're gonna have three, each to 33%. If you're gonna have two, one with a flex property of 2 and the other with a flex property of 1, one of them is going to be 66%, the other one is going to be 33%. So building columns, no problem. Next up is rows. You just change the name of the property, flex direction, you set it to column, and now all of those divs that you used to think of as rows, you can think of them as columns. And you can also invert them, and I'm going to show you how it's so easy, it's amazing. Next up is the Flexbox for vertical centering. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have a container that is set to display flex. We're gonna set it to have a 100% height so that it occupies the maximum height of its own container. So that way, even if we don't know how tall it's supposed to be, it's going to get as tall as it has to, right? That said, we're gonna set it to display to flex, and we're gonna say that it's gonna align its items to center. Then we're gonna put a container inside of this one, and this container is going to get centered. It doesn't matter what its height is, it doesn't matter how it is, it's always gonna be in the center of this parent container. The single container needs to have a property flex of 1. In reality, it could be any flex, but it's gonna be a single container, okay? So now let me demonstrate all of this. So the first example is up here. It's very basic, as you can see. We have our features box, and let's say we need to have a bunch of padding. We can just add padding here. We can do padding 42 pixels, 24 pixels. And as you can see, you can have these nice columns. They're nice and smooth with padding, right? And what if you want to change the direction? Actually, how is it done? We have a display flex, and each of the elements inside has a property flex. This one is 1, this one is 1, this one is 1, this one is 2. So it's twice as big as the other ones, okay? That's all it is. You run the math, you just try it out. It's actually fairly simple. So if you wanted to run a 12-column idea, just like Bootstrap, you can just either have 12 columns of flex 1, or you can just run the math, right? So that the whole flex properties add up to 12. So if you want to change the direction, you can just scroll around and look for a property called flex-direction, and you can have a column flex direction. And now the first column becomes a row. The second column becomes a row, etc., etc. You can also use column reverse, so that way they go in the opposite sides. This is a great pattern if you want to change it in mobile, because now you can literally just set a media query and you can set the flex direction to column when you're on mobile. It's actually fairly remarkable and it's pretty awesome. Another great example is this one. It's how to have margins with this content, right? So you're going to have a main container that is again set to flex, display flex, and that's about it. And then you're gonna have your content with flex. The only thing you're gonna have to change to turn these columns into something cool is to have margin, you know? I know you can use CSS grids, I know you can do a lot of stuff, but look how simple and elegant this is. This is actually very awesome. And now we're going to go to the more advanced example, okay? This is the more advanced example. As you can see, we have this container who has a height, I think, of 450 pixels. 450 pixels, yeah. And this one is 450 as well. So how do we center this, right? How can we pull this off? There's a bunch of ways, but the simplest way is to use the pattern that I talked about. You're gonna have a vertical center container who's gonna have a display flex of display of flex, and align items of center, a flex direction of row, which means that you can also remove it. And it's gonna have a height of 100%. You don't know what the height of paragraph image is. All you know is that vCenter container will occupy all of it. Then vCenter content will be the single children of the vCenter container, and it's going to be set to a flex of 1. And by using the property align items, you basically are able to move the item to wherever you want. And by using center, it's going to be perfectly in the center. There's been a case in which this kind of breaks if you try to center a button. And my answer to you is that if you have problems and you have a single item, you can always use the second approach to centering. If you know the height and you know all the properties of it, you can just use position absolute while the container is set to position relative. And you can do top calculate 50% minus 50% of the height of the item. So if height is 20 pixels, we can set to 50%, which is 50% of the height of the container, minus 20 pixels, which is the height of the whole thing, divided by 2. So that now it's exactly in the center anyway. So that was me helping you after helping somebody else. That was the Daily Codementor version 2. If you want to receive amazing mentoring by me, I'm available most of the day in EST time on Codementor.io. So as you can see, there's also going to be a link in the description. With that said, I wish you an amazing day. Ciao.